Hello there. Welcome to the show. This is Chris. We are live. This is the weekly Spinner Rack. Could the folks in chat let me know if the audio's okay? I was about to start the show and realized I hadn't grabbed my microphone, which I was using for an interview recently. It had been upstairs. So I just plugged it in, and I want to make sure that it sounds like the audio is good, that it's coming from the professional microphone instead of like the webcam or something. Would love to hear back. But welcome to the show. This is the weekly Spinner Rack. My name is Chris. I'm your host. We're going to talk about a lot of comic book news and some reviews today. Audio is good for you. Audio good. Okay, great. Thanks, folks. Sounds good. Hi, cat. Got a cat meowing at me down here. Which one are you? I'm a little mad at my cat Jack, if I'm honest. He was pretty naughty last night. He knocked over sorry, I was just testing that too. He knocked over a cup of water and ruined about $200 worth of comics I had on a stack, like just gone. It was water with some of that Mio flavor enhancer, so just stained some of the stuff pink. I was not too happy about that. That was very frustrating. So I'm not the happiest with Jack right now, but you know, that's life, I guess. That's the pleasure of owning a pet. They're just screaming right now. That's great. I'm just doing some stuff here. I'm going to make sure that I add another camera. Add an extra camera. And then I will be with everybody. I appreciate your patience as I'm sort of getting set up there. Yeah. You could say that he was a little naughty. You could say that. Pets and valuables do not coexist. Yeah. Hello to my sister. Lovely to have you here, Jean. I've been wondering if you had to protect your comics from your cats. I wouldn't say I usually have to protect them. You know, this was just like a random sequence of events that led to the destruction of a bunch of comics. Normally, I wouldn't have put my drink somewhere where he could get it. Jack did something he's never done before. I was eating off of my plate. I wasn't sitting at the table. I was just sitting down, like with it on my lap. And he jumped up and grabbed a chunk of meat off of the plate. And I was so surprised. I was like, oh my God. And I put things down. And then for some reason, he used that opportunity to jump up and knock over the water. So I was pretty angry. But it's not like you can do anything about it, which makes you more angry. So that's the story. What a great story to start off with. You would have hit him with a stone cold stunner? I didn't think of that. No, these weren't bagged. The stuff that got ruined was all stuff that there aren't like bags for that size. It just happened to be a stack of like manga, specifically a bunch of issues of Slam Dunk, which aren't the easiest to come across. A Kickstarter graphic novel by Jeff Smith that's a weird size. So that's not something you can buy at the comic shop. And actually one of them I could have had in a bag, but I just got it. It was the graphic novel of the Last of Us prequel, among other things. So anyway, it was just like randomly sized fun adventures with animals. You know, that's the trade-off. They're kittens and they're curious and they explore, and I forgive him now. I forgive him. I was just pretty upset at the time. So I was curious if that was him meowing or not. Hey, how are you? I hope you guys are doing well. I'm probably also on edge because I still don't know what's going on with my overall health. I have some serious health issues. I've been to the ER a couple times. I've been to my doctor, and I'll be seeing a specialist, but unfortunately the soonest they were able to see me is going to be the 11th. So I'm waiting, and I'm very nervous while I'm waiting. So it's not taking a whole lot to sort of set me off and be like, the world is on fire. Yeah, you'd think like no treats, but I like them so much. I actually did give them a treat today. So anyway, lovely. I like this positivity. I asked how people are doing, and ChemDog says doing well. I just okay. Let's see. Sorry to hear about your stack of wet comics. Thank you, Andy. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. What kind of specialist? Yeah, I don't really want to go into it too much just because then I'd have to start like explaining exactly what's going on, and it's kind of gross. You guys don't want to hear. My body isn't doing so good though. So yeah, I'm pretty sick, unfortunately. But I don't hurt, for what it's worth. The waiting game with doctors sucks. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for being here. Let's see. You know what would be fun? Doing a show with an actual topic and such. So let's do that. I think that's a beautiful idea. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up a plug. Wait, why is this giving me a pop-up window? Got it. Okay. I'm still running my Indiegogo campaign, or really, I mean, technically Dynamite's running it, but I'm in charge of promoting it, and I'm happy to do that. I'm pretty excited about this, folks. I know a bunch of you have heard of it, but not everybody, especially the people that watch this once it's archived. It's just I figured out that it is a fact. Lots of my followers, both on this channel, Pros and Cons, as well as on Comic Tropes, are still telling me that they had no idea that I have this campaign going. That just shows you the limited reach of some of these posts that I've been making, because I know a lot of engaged people are probably tired of me mentioning it, but I do have just over 2 weeks to go for this cover that I drew for Vampirella. And it's going well, but it obviously could be going better when you see that there are like 248 backers. Well, that isn't bad for like an online campaign. And at the same time, that's about 1,000th of the subscribers that I have on YouTube. So just sort of interesting metrics there. Am I getting ratioed? I don't think so. Everybody that I've talked to says that they like the cover, that they think it's cool. So, you know, and if you get it, you've got the option to get Comic Tropes stuff too, like pins or an Infotron plush. That's kind of fun. Squish, squish. He doesn't make any sounds when you squish him. That'll have to be the next one. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that. And what else? I know we could move on to some actual news. But I will also say I've been having some fun this past week doing interviews on various podcasts and YouTube shows because I'm in full promotion mode. So I'm just like open to anybody that asks. And it's been fun. It's been fun. Because I mostly do this show, like Comic Tropes and this, you know, by myself. Now, I love getting to chat live with all of you that happen to be here right now. That's super, super fun. But yeah, it's nice to talk to people in podcasts every once in a while because you get to talk back and forth about comics. It's great. Hello, Sam. And let's see. You got the Virgin variant. Thank you very much, K-Bar. I really appreciate that. So I've got more news. Let's start with this. And look at that title I went with. I couldn't help with but go for some rhyming. The Rock cock blocks Shazam. This is stuff we sort of suspected, but it turns out that Dwayne Johnson was actually much more difficult to work with regarding the connections to Shazam for his Black Adam movie than we initially thought. The Wrap broke the news that The Rock actually vetoed a post-credits scene for his movie Black Adam, where it would have featured the Justice Society, which was heavily featured in Black Adam, recruiting Shazam, which makes sense in the comics, the modern comics. Both of these characters are on the Justice Society of America. And The Rock said, nope, I don't want Shazam to appear in this movie. I'm one of the producers. I'm vetoing that. Well, okay, but that definitely could have been something that built a little bit more of excitement for the next Shazam movie, or connective tissue between two characters that get their powers from the same source. You know, basically, there was a quote in the rap. It said, Dwayne tries to sell himself as bigger than the movie. And I think sometimes that's very true, that he is. Instead of making a movie, he wants to extend his brand and make a brand centered on himself. Just keep in mind, the original plan when they hired Dwayne Johnson was to appear as Black Adam within the movie Shazam. And he was like, no, tell you what, why don't we spin off my character and he gets his own movie and we build that up? And DC's like, yeah, I guess so. Sure. Let's do it that way. And the article also talks about how The Rock went over the head of the actual president of DC Films at the time, Walter Hamada, to go to the top brass at Warner Brothers itself to tell them, you know what you got to do is a post-credit scene with Superman. I need to go up against Superman. And they were like, oh, yeah, I know who Superman is. That sounds like a good idea. And so that's how that happened. Yeah, it's not wonderful, you know, like when you do a superhero movie in a shared universe, I think that there should be a certain amount of being a team player. And it seems like in this particular case, it didn't seem like The Rock was much of a team player. I would argue it probably didn't necessarily affect how Black Adam did. It may have affected how Shazam 2 opened. You know, I think that you could argue that if people had seen a post-credit scene where he was going to be recruited into the Justice Society, that might have created a certain amount of excitement for the next movie. I think Marvel's post-credit scenes tend to do a good job at something like that. It's like a hint at what's coming next. Anyway. I like this one. Yeah, maybe Mr. Mind got into The Rock's brain. You can be pretty sure that Mr. Mind would not appear in a Black Adam movie. He seems nice. I mean, I guess he's he's him. He's The Rock. Did it bomb? You know, it's still in theaters and it's only been out for like, what, 2 weeks now? So it's probably too soon to say that it bombed. It definitely did not open meeting expectations, and it came in significantly beneath the first movie. But we are in a post-pandemic world, so a lot of movies aren't doing what Hollywood used to expect out of them. But anyway, you know, I saw it and I didn't think it was a bad movie for what it's worth. I didn't think it was a great movie, but I actually had more fun at Shazam 2 than I did at Black Adam. That's not a huge bar to set. It was good. It probably could have been better if it like had a little bit more comic book story and character within it. It was sort of more of an original idea. But it wasn't bad. It really isn't. I would look, I totally recommend seeing it when it gets to streaming or something like that. Or if you have like what I have, like an AMC stubs, and you can just see like up to 3 movies a week. Yeah, I would not call it a waste of your time. I don't know that I'd recommend paying like full price to see it, you know, in the evening. I don't know about that. But it probably, realistically, it probably didn't do enough to justify a third Shazam movie in the series. Like that seems like a huge long shot at this point. I would not expect to see The Rock or Zachary Levi as Black Adam or Shazam anymore. I think if Shazam did really, really well, there'd be like a chance. But I don't think that's super realistic. That's interesting. Yeah, Justice Society of America as a period piece. We haven't really seen a lot of that in superhero movies, like something done as a period piece. We had the first Captain America was definitely a period piece. You could argue Captain Marvel was, but the 90s, like that's a bit of a stretch to call it a period piece. Yeah, the actress playing Mary Marvel is actually very good. I would say that the strongest character is sincerely the kid that plays Freddie Freeman, and he does steal the movie. But anyway. The JSA stuff in Stargirl was pretty fun. You know, I haven't seen that show, I have to admit, so I guess I can't speak to that. Is it still going? Or is it like in its final season, probably? Something like that? What about Wonder Woman? What the third Wonder Woman movie is definitely canceled. So that's not happening. As to whether, you know, this sort of they're starting the DC movies fresh in like 2 years with Superman Legacy. They're rebooting things. It is still technically possible that they could keep some of the actors on. They're definitely not keeping all of the actors on, because like they're not keeping Henry Cavill as Superman. They're going with somebody a little younger. They're starting Superman younger. Could they keep it out? They could keep her as Wonder Woman theoretically. They're keeping Viola Davis as what's her name? Amanda Waller. So it's possible some actors could continue. We don't know yet. Yeah, you know what honestly made Shazam unique in a way, like, is something like what you're saying, Victor. Shazam is a very fun comic at its core, and it's a little goofy. They embrace humor in these movies, but they don't have like the talking tiger, talking Tawny in it. They've got like a little Easter egg hint, like with where they call a kitten Tawny, but that's not quite the same thing. Or Uncle Marvel, you know, a big fat guy that does not have superpowers that still considers himself part of the Marvel family. And it's funny. Captain Marvel's a funny comic. It would be fun to have some of those elements in there. I don't know who that is. Oh, Robot. Oh, you're talking about Robert Pattinson. Well, he's getting a sequel, the Batman II. So he's getting that, but that isn't connected to the shared universe. They're at Elseworlds at this point if it's not directly connected to their shared universe, which is decent branding, but it's also a little confusing that we're going to have things like the Joker 2, the Batman 2, and those are each its own separate thing, not with each other, not with the shared universe. It does get a little confusing. The 1940s Captain Marvel serial is interesting. You can find it on YouTube as well. It's kind of violent, to be honest. It's kind of violent. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. The Batman 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold. Hey, I want Batman searching for missing gold. That sounds great. I'll go back to some more news here. What is next? Oh, yeah. I don't know how many of you played the Spider-Man video game by Insomniac. It's a really fun game. It's not necessarily something that changes games like, hey, wow, they invented something new. Instead, it's just really well executed. The gameplay is fun. It's fun to swing around New York. It's fun to get into fights with a huge gang of villains and like sort of chain together Spider-Man's moves. It's not like hard, like memorizing tons of button combos. It's a really fun game and a nice story. It's also a good story. Well, there's been plenty of excitement because it was so good. When is Spider-Man 2 coming out? It seems like somebody slipped, and we got a little information for that. Specifically, Tony Todd, really cool character actor. You've definitely seen him in a lot of great stuff. He was Candyman. He was in the Final Destination movies. He was in a fantastic couple of episodes of Star Trek. Great character actor. Well, he tweeted this and quickly deleted it, which lends itself to believe, yeah, it was probably accurate. He said about the game, he goes, looks like September. Massive publicity coming in August. Commercials start dropping in August, so I'm told. Hold on to your and hold breath. Going to be necessary. Great hype. He was probably asked to delete it realistically. But anyway, Tony Todd, we already knew, is playing Venom in this game. So popular villain, was not in the first game at all. Also, just sort of a related quote I put in here. Marvel's vice president of creative, a guy named Bill Roseman, he oversees a lot of stuff like video games and emerging media. He said that the sequel will be darker. We're not talking. He specifically outlined that he's not talking like rated M for mature darker. He just means a little more serious, a little more weighty. But I'm excited. I loved Spider-Man and its sort of downloadable content extra sort of half game. It was more just like reusing the assets for the Miles Morales game. Really good. Yeah, exactly. Jake Sisko. That's what I'm talking about. He was in Tony Todd was in an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine that's probably my personal single favorite episode of Star Trek. It's just like this one-off where the son of the captain on that show is with his father, and this, scientific anomaly happens, and his father blinks away, only to come back months later, and then years later, and then decades later, comes back to his son. So they're like quantumly entangled, but like you just see Jake get older and older, and he dedicates his whole life to trying to save his father and undo this thing. It's very beautiful. The Visitor. Thank you for reminding me that. You don't have to like be a Star Trek follower to understand that single standalone episode. If you ever want to just pull up a good episode of Star Trek and see what it can be like, it's very well done. Tony Todd is really great in it. Honestly, I think it's one of his best performances. I know it's TV, not a film, but I really think it's one of his best. Let's see. Was there ever a movie franchise that decided to go less dark? Oh, what a fascinating question, Andy. I sort of know what you mean. It does seem like they're like, hey, in the sequel, things get darker. But I feel like there's got to be an example of a movie franchise that went lighter. There's got to be, right? I don't know. Maybe, you try to raise the stakes in a way, and so that can be perceived as darker. But I can't. I guess I can't think of like a franchise where the tone was noticeably lighter. Oh, wait a minute. That's actually like so. Chad, good one. I see that also the Cthulhu's. You're kind of right. The first Evil Dead is pretty much like pure horror. A little bit of humor, but like pretty serious stuff. Evil Dead 2, still dark humor, but also has some slapstick in it. And then Army of Darkness should be rated PG-13, not R, because there's like not it's skeletons and stuff. So that actually is sort of an example. Of course, then they did sort of like, like reboots and stuff like that are darker again. But yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Like as far as horror goes, that's true. Gremlins 2 is also like lighter. But 2 movies, does that quite make a franchise? I don't know. But that's a good call. That's a good call. Oh, all right. EJ has a point there too. I think we'd be hard pressed to argue that Batman 1989 and Batman and Robin, that did go from darker to lighter. So yeah, Superman 3, more just like weirdly goofy, but yeah, Batman is a call. That's a good call. RoboCop 3, yeah. TMNT 1 to 2. Yeah, there's a definite like huge tonal change from 1 to 2, and then 3 is pretty much the same as 2. Yeah, so there are some. Oh, here's another one that's horror. I think horror franchises would probably be able to find a good amount, actually. Nightmare on Elm Street. Because, boy, the Freddy Krueger in part 6 is just so well lit, and he's just there. And he's just making jokes. And he's killing people with, like, a Nintendo Power Glove all of a sudden. Like, just making them die within a video game. It's so bloodless. It's just so goofy. So goofy. Yeah, Child's Play. I bet you if we think about, like, you could argue it to a degree for even like Friday the 13th. Like, the first one is trying to play it pretty darn serious. And by the time you get to, I don't know, parts like 6 and 8 and stuff, 10, it's pretty goofy, jokey. Yeah. So I guess there are some examples, but mostly if you're doing a story that's continuing, you sort of want to try to top the threat somehow. So I would argue that probably you usually do go darker. That was fun to talk about. I'm sure that was in a way like a throwaway comment, Andy, but thanks, because that led to something interesting. Here's some news. You know, it definitely got lots of press this past week, but you'd be forgiven for not hearing about it if you don't, follow behind the scenes stuff. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios, I'll call it, they fired a vice president. And this is Victoria Alonso, who we actually have talked about on this show quite a bit. She has been one of the producers on every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie since Iron Man. It's her, Kevin Feige, and Louis D'Esposito. Those are the three people who have produced all of the Marvel movies so far. Who is she? She's been the head of VFX. We have had a lot of articles where places like Vulture have talked to VFX artists, and they say that Marvel has a pretty broken system. Well, there was an article in the Direct this week that said that she created a toxic work environment. Now, again, these are allegations as compared to like hard evidence. There hasn't been any sort of a trial where anything would be put forth and said like, yeah, she definitely did this or that. But the accusations are that she plays the role of a kingmaker. If she really likes you and your work, she gives you lots and lots of work. If you don't hit her arbitrary deadlines or deliver exactly what she wants, supposedly she puts you on a blacklist. And Marvel makes a lot of movies, so that's super important for a lot of smaller VFX studios. So when she got let go, the Hollywood Reporter, which is a pretty reputable trade in publication, it isn't yellow journalism or gossip. It's pretty much just facts, typically. But they had an article that alleged that the reason she got fired was actually not because of these allegations, but because she was promoting a movie called Argentina 1985, which she had produced not for Disney. She's a Disney employee, but she had produced it not for them, but for Amazon. And that broke the rules of her compete clause. That like, when they found out she was producing it originally, supposedly they were like ready to give her leeway, but then it was up for like an Oscar and she started promoting it and they were like, this is too egregious. Then again, maybe that was just what they were going to use to let her go because of these earlier claims. That's me speculating wildly. Just to try to be fair, though, there's another side to this. She has her lawyer, Patty Glazer, that has responded to this firing and said, no, that's false. That is not why she was fired. The promoting Argentina 1985. And she hinted that there's going to be a big lawsuit. She was like, oh, this will all come out, in public and Disney better be careful, blah, blah, blah. She specifically had a quote. I just need to move this a little. She said that Alonso, quote, was terminated when she refused to do something that she believed was reprehensible. Vague, Potentially alarming. Don't know exactly what that could be, but maybe. Oh, okay. Great movie. It did get, a lot of acclaim during the awards season. Nominated for Best Foreign Movie. I don't know though. I don't have any inside knowledge. I have no idea what's going on here. All I know is that she has been a prominent executive of putting together the MCU, and she's gone now. So I don't know. Well, yeah, you say good luck to her lawyers facing Disney, but when you're this high up, I feel like a settlement is really likely. We'll see. Yeah, the story is Disney had a rule about not working with the competition. Almost every big company does. Sometimes you can get special permission when you're a movie producer to like do a smaller project, like a passion project elsewhere, as long as it, isn't going to be the type of movie that competes with what they're doing and it isn't taking your attention away from your job. So I think that they were probably willing to let her make the movie, even though that like it might have ruffled some feathers, but promoting it was kind of like a step too far. I have a feeling it'll settle too. I feel like this won't go to court and we won't get to see, exactly what the truth is. I just don't think it's going to happen. Disney, in this specific case, it's probably just worth it to Disney to settle. Sometimes they want to set a precedent, and they have a lot of money set aside for legal cases to protect their intellectual property and stuff. But when it's sort of like a case of he said, she said over like, why somebody got let go, I feel like they'd rather just settle than get any bad publicity. Let's see. Do I think that the MCU is starting to become like Star Wars, where one person has too much power? George Lucas, Feige, the movies are getting worse. No, not necessarily. I'd even argue that lately, Star Wars, like Disney, flat out just slowed down on making those movies, didn't they? They just slowed down, and they did some TV shows which are a little easier to control, and I think that when you look at stuff like Andor and The Mandalorian, they've had some really good TV shows. I don't think any Star Wars TV that I've seen I would call outright bad. Is something like Obi-Wan as good as Andor? Arguably not, but it certainly wasn't bad. So they've slowed down there, and there are hints that Disney is pumping the brakes on how much MCU stuff they're going to be out. They clear all the release dates for their various shows. They're slowing down so that they can hopefully up the. I think that they're aware that like Phase 4 was just sort of mid in general. I would say that like the Spider-Man and Doctor Strange movies, you could look at those and probably compare that to anything in phases 1 through 3. Obviously, stuff like Eternals it didn't go over great. Black Widow was whatever. So we'll see. Still finishing Andor? Well, I'm jealous. I love the show. I think that was great. Maybe she could go to work for DC. I think it's more likely that she'd probably work for something like, I don't know, Amazon or Universal or something like that. Wow, Kevin Connor, thank you very much. First super chat of the night. I'm rich. I can pay my taxes. No, thank you very much for the support. I appreciate that. That's really, really sweet of you. I agree with you there, K-Bar, as far as the highlight so far of Mandalorian Season 3 is probably Katie Sackhoff. Her character of Bo-Katan is really, really good. Oh, I totally agree with you, Jay. I think that they just sort of got to a point where they were very confident that everything they released was going to be a hit. And honestly, it mostly was. Man 3, no. But everything else kind of still was a hit, like money-wise. But I think that they're realizing that they need to slow things down, put in some more quality control, some more hands-on stuff. We'll see. Jumping back to the news. Oh, this one's kind of funny. I've got some funny news. This was pointed out originally by Rich Johnston on Bleeding Cool, but I just got such a kick out of it, I had to share it. In a way, actually, it ties in somewhat to Black Adam, because Black Adam, I made a little episode on Comic Tropes about this. A lot of the storyline there was based on a crossover storyline that was called Black Rain. That crossover is now coming out in trade paperback format. It's called Justice Society of America Volume 5. It's got some of these creators like Jeff Johns, Leonard Kirk, Don Kramer, Rags Morales. Here's the order that Black Rain was supposed to go in on the left. Went from JSA 56, Hawkman 23, JSA 57, Hawkman 24, JSA 58, Hawkman 25. As you could see, went back and forth between the titles in consecutive ordering. Here's how they literally released it in this trade paperback that's out there. It starts the same, JSA 56, and ends the same, Hawkman 25. In the middle, look at this. It goes Hawkman 24, then Hawkman 23, JSA 58, JSA 57. How could anyone be expected to possibly parse that out and make sense of it? You're jumping forward and backward throughout a trade paperback to make sense of this. And then it ended originally on like this panel where Our Man had been like sort of transported into time. And he goes, "And where is my son?" It was a cliffhanger for the next issue. But since that next issue isn't in the trade paperback, they literally just wiped out the text, but like left an empty speech balloon. That was how they decided to sort of make it have more closure, I guess, within the trade paperback. That is some bonkers decision making. I have never seen a trade paperback come out like that. Yeah, hell yeah, non-linear storytelling. Exactly. They're just taking a tip from somebody like Quentin Tarantino and just giving you a real experience there. Editing blunder is putting that lightly. It is totally confusing. Yeah, that's so bad. I demand a refund if I order that. I bet a bunch of people will. How many people, when they buy a trade, read like the first page to see like which things are being reprinted? No, you basically just open it and expect to read a story all the way through. This does not give you that. That's so insane. It is insane. Right. Yeah, there have been TV shows that have aired episodes out of order, but this is just crazy. Stupendous. The trade paperback equivalent of House of Leaves. Write your own adventure. Yeah, if all they have to do to fix it in like the reprint is just go, if you'd like to read this in consecutive order, jump to page 32. If you'd like to be totally confused, jump to page 12. It is so crazy. Non sequitur quality control is on the job. I have never seen a trade paperback printed like that. I've never seen something like that as far as a decision. I've seen minor printing errors, like with, I want to say the original hardcover of Crisis on Infinite Earths. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it had 2 pages reprinted. Like it went like, page 23, 24, and then again, 23, 24, something like that. Like we're jumping way back in time for that, but like, fine, there's something like that. But the idea of completely changing the order, and I'd almost understand if it was like JSA, these 3 issues, then Hawkman, these 3 issues. I'd almost understand that. But to actually go Hawkman 24, then Hawkman 23, JSA 58, then JSA 57, like how could anyone make sense of that? Will these be worth money? Not necessarily, no. I would say, when there is a print error and it's especially weird but there's still demand for that book, and a low print run, yeah, it might make it a little valuable. It's a novelty more than anything else. But when all it is a trade paperback that doesn't make sense, no, I don't think that there's going to be much demand for that. I really don't. With the reprints fixing this, maybe it will gain in value. Maybe. It depends on how many of these they release and how amused people are by this. I would not say that it's something that would necessarily create a lot of demand. I really don't think so. I would not recommend investing in something like this. It's very different than if you bought an issue of Spider-Man and, there was a lettering mistake where he calls J. Jonah Jameson the Scorpion. Like that's a weird thing that you might count as a mistake that's worth something, but I don't know. Or even better, like suppose they printed an issue of the Hulk and half of the print run had a cover color mistake and the Hulk looked kind of yellow by mistake because they just didn't get the colors mixed properly. That would be worth something. But yeah, not like this. Not like this. I look forward to seeing stacks of these at Ollie's. I definitely want to see it in person. I do want to flip through and just see what it looks like. Famous comic editing errors would make for an interesting comic tropes episode. You know what? I'm going to pause things here to talk about something hilarious. So there is somebody out there who constantly posts this one comic that he claims, or she, I guess I don't know now that I say that, or they, posts a comic to eBay to try to sell it for this extraordinarily high amount of money as a printing error. Tell you what better? Let me see if I actually find. Maybe it's that would be excellent. Just a second to look for this. I hope it's up. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Give me a moment. I'm looking for something because if I can find it, it's better. I'll tell the story if I have to, but if I can find it, yeah. I think I found it. Yep, it's still up. No, that's not the same one. Okay, hold on. Okay. Here we go. I know this is really captivating, compelling content. I'm just trying to see if it's still up there. Oh, it is. This has been up for years, folks. Nobody's bought it because. All right, here we go. Let me add a window. I have to take one out and then add this. I'm so glad that I found this. This is great. I can't wait. Okay. This has been up for years. So we're on eBay, right? We've got new Teen Titans. Okay, what's so special about that? Well, somebody's asking for $1.2 million for it, first of all. Book from like 86. They say, mega rare error comic, DC New Teen Titans number 6, but inside is Marvel 2-in-1 number 74. And this person claims that the printer printed a Marvel book with a DC cover. And then they got it graded by CGC to sort of add authenticity to it. Here's the thing. Anyone could have done this at home with like a long arm stapler, just like swapped out the cover. But this person's claiming that it was a mistake, like the original printer. And he's had it up for like over $1 million for years, just constantly puts it up. I guess hoping someone falls for this because I don't believe it. Let me repeat that. A DC cover on a Marvel comic. explains like that they both came out in April of 1981. Only 2 known copies exist. Maybe only 1. You would have to confirm this with CGC, since another error comic shows in the census. But yeah, like, so no, no one's ever seen it. An update: there are apparently a total of 3 qualified Green Label copies, as in CGC has a question on this, but they're calling that, like, a benefit. Yes, that's right. The most improbable error you could think of. So let me say this. Suppose it was real. Just suppose it was real. Who cares? Literally, who cares? Like, who would be like, oh, I've got to own Marvel 2-in-1 that has a new Teen Titans cover on it? Where's the demand for that? Where is the demand for that? It's not even like Spider-Man with a Batman cover. It's just so arbitrarily random that this person has had it up for literally years. It looks like that. And we're just supposed to go like, okay, yeah, that is an interior of a Marvel comic, and yeah, that is a DC cover, but there's no provenance to that to prove that this is real. There's no history. There's no, like, letter of declaration from the printer that, like, yeah, we messed up and did it this way. Let me just type in the search terms here. eBay. Yeah. So if I just type that in, I bet, okay, so the first is eBay, but I want to say that we'll probably find these are all the same, like, comic, just like relisted, I think. I don't know. I was too specific there. But anyway, if you look at it, it's been on websites for years. Shut up and take my money. What's that? I'd pay $1 for that. I'm going to buy it to soak up all my pets' spilled water. How dare you, Beowulf? How dare you? Even if it was real, who would pay $1 million? Exactly. There just isn't demand for it. It's been up there for years. There's so many jokes. I can't. Yeah. How is this even possible? Yeah, they have used the same printer. It would theoretically be possible, but if it happened, I can't imagine them printing like 5 and being able to shut down the press. When they bind these things, you're going to get like at least a few hundred before you're able to shut it off. And then after you do that, how does it get out into the wild as compared to just being trashed? Like, printers make mistakes and they usually trash that stuff. I don't know. If it's real, it might actually be worth something. Something, not 1.2 million. Exactly. If they were selling it for like $30, you'd go like, oh, okay, that's a novelty. But if you're going to charge $1.2 million, you have to display, in my opinion, something called provenance. Proof that what you're putting out there is real. Like, some certifications from places. Like, a Marvel editor, for instance, saying like, yeah, this happened. I declare that I know this happened. Or the printer saying like, like, yes, we certify this happened. Anyway. I don't believe that it's real. That's me personally. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But I've seen the same person list it and relist it for over $1 million for like several years. Wait, what did I miss? I missed something that people were like giggling at. I missed it. Darn it. Oh, well. Yeah, the first amalgam comic, in a way. But there were crossovers before that, just to be clear. You want to believe? Yeah. All right. So thank you for letting me take that detour. All of a sudden, I just remembered how crazy that was. We're talking, of course, about DC's editing blunder there. The seller has a signed verification by George Santos saying that it's real. And George Santos even notarized it. There you go. Someone is selling a messed up copy of Spider-Man 2099 for $1,200 on eBay. There was a time when speculation in comics, especially in the 90s, basically went crazy. And yeah, certain rare misprints can be worth a little bit more to collectors. But just because it's an error does not immediately make it worth something. People still need to like want what was created. It doesn't automatically become valuable. Oh, that's a great analogy. Yeah, the last copy of Nuki. If you guys watch Red Letter Media, they've collected the hundreds of copies of this terrible movie called Nuki, and they decided to try to make a copy of it more valuable by destroying hundreds of their copies, therefore like, you know, reducing the supply. It's a pretty funny episode. Well, there's more news than just that though. This will be a little bit of a game changer. Kodansha is definitely one of the bigger publishers of manga. Does a lot of popular shonen stuff. Well, they're about to launch an online comics platform for the US specifically. It's going to happen this May. It's going to be called K Manga. That's pretty easy to remember. Decent branding, I think. K for Kodansha, K Manga. They're going to release initially both back issues and current releases. We're talking about 400 titles at launch. Decent. Here's just like a handful that I grabbed that are pretty well known that you might have heard of. Blue Lock, Rent a Girlfriend, Attack on Titan, Ghost in the Shell. Decided to use that image by Masamune Shiro. Lots more. The company has a quote. They're saying that they will deliver official translations by industry professionals familiar with each manga. They're trying to give the best possible translations. That's definitely been an area of focus for a lot of manga importers to English, is to get a very authentic translation. It's not just word for word. You know, you're trying to interpret some of the cultural stuff and have it make sense. Anyway, the app itself will be downloadable in May. And like I said, yeah, that's when it launches. Actually, I think that the app will go like live a little before they have all the material in it. And they have said that some of the chapters for a bunch of the titles will be free so that people can try it out. So, yeah. No, not Korean. This is all Japanese. And I think it'll be popular. I really do. I was going to say, how did you not hear about Ghost in the Shell? I definitely have heard of Ghost in the Shell. I don't know. It's interesting seeing a bunch of different publishers sign deals with new web-based technologies, new digital apps. We talked about that some last week. Places like Global Comics, Vault was doing like, you know, Vault Unbound. There were a couple different things. Comixology does not seem to be long for this world, and it looks like a lot of the publishers are looking to make sure that they can land softly if that disappears tomorrow and Amazon only has a broken Kindle experience. They want to be sure that they have their own plan for letting people get digital comics. You've heard of Spirit Within a Crust? I think that there's some sarcasm going on here. You wanted to have the uncensored sex scene. Yes. That was in the version that I got, but I understand that a bunch of them did not have that. Let's see. Kodansha licenses some titles only digitally, while other publishers handle physical distribution. Therefore, titles like Tokyo Revengers will be on the app and be caught up to Japan. Let's see. Is there a Kindle-type device made purely to optimize comic reading? No, there isn't, to my knowledge. And yes, that would probably be very popular if you could create an app that was built for reading comics that could like easily connect to just comic apps and digital comics. I think that that would be a popular gimmick, you know, sell like a Kindle that's designed, optimized for just reading comics. I think that that's a good idea. let's see. How will Tokyo Revengers handle the Manji? Basically, I guess you're talking about the swastika symbol. In the comics, they just have it with an explanation at the beginning of how there's a cultural difference. I've got an issue of Tokyo Revengers here, so I would presume that that's going to be the same in their digital releases. Bear with me. I'm just reorganizing a few things. I'll be right with everybody. I've got stacks of comics here. That's probably not the safest way. So this has already been something that manga translations have dealt with Blade of the Immortal. So Tokyo Revengers, very popular current book. And when you open the first page, it explains the history of the Manji symbol, because one of the gangs in this prominently wears that on their back. And if you don't have that there are plenty of people here in the West that would not understand that that's a religious symbol of power, that there is a different history. And yeah, I'll admit that the first time I went to Japan, and Jeannie, I don't know if you remember this, but like we saw some temples that had swastikas, and it like confused me at the time. But yeah, it's got a very different meaning there. Let's see here. Thank you for the super chat, Michael. Hope this helps. YouTube is going to allow using a new codex called AV1 for streaming. It uses less bandwidth and improves the visual quality. Only catch is you would need a new computer with a modern graphics card. Well, that is my plan. So thank you. I will definitely consider that a contribution to my computer fund. And as soon as I get a little bit of time, I plan on driving down to Portland, Oregon to get myself a new computer, just because you don't have to pay taxes, sales tax down there. So that's kind of nice, and it's not that far. Oh, you don't remember anymore? We were a lot younger when we went, and you were, even younger than me. So I don't blame you. But yeah, I do remember that. Let's see. A lot of people with different comments on the Manji symbol. Argentinian release of Tokyo Revengers has the Manji on the cover and was kind of controversial. I can understand that. I would not expect it to be on the cover here. Wasn't it an Eastern symbol of good luck? More like, yeah, power. I don't know the full history, to be honest. I shouldn't try to act like an expert there. Yeah, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach. A lot of them use it. It's a common, I will say it, like the last couple of times I went to Japan, I feel like when I went to various temples that would have that, they usually have like a little sign as you're entering explaining the history of it, just to give it context. But if you look at maps, you know how sometimes in cities you walk down and near bus stops and stuff, they'll have a map of the city. They have that to mark shrines, just the symbol, like no context. So you have to sort of know it's meant to be a swastika. It's too bad that a very common symbol has been co-opted, and it will be a long time until people are able to just ignore the negative context. It will be a long time in the Western world. Oh, thank you, One Bite Snack. I appreciate that. I really do. Joshua, thank you for jumping in. I appreciate it. Yes, the articles that I saw all said that Kodansha, when they're launching this app, are putting in some of their older titles. Certainly Ghost in the Shell is one of the more well-known older ones, and that they plan on retranslating some older things. So yeah. They use that symbol in some yoga studios. Oh, I hadn't come across that. Anyway, I think that K-manga sounds like a good idea. I wish that this stuff could be condensed into just one or two places. I suspect we are going to see a lot of digital apps and websites to look at comics, and slowly one or two of them will do better and things will get condensed, but it will take some time. But you shouldn't let that scare you off of using them. I don't always talk about auctions because there's always something old and rare up for auction. But I think Detective Comics number 27 is certainly one of the most important older comics and obviously sets records for what old comics can go for. So there is a copy right now up on Heritage Auctions. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but Heritage Auctions specializes in a lot of comics, original art, stuff like that, where you can bid online for about a month period, and then they culminate in those bids, being able to, some of them are sealed bids. Those will open up when they do a live auction in person, but usually the people in person are prepared to bid more, and that's where it usually goes. Anyway, that is all to say. We've got a CGC graded 6.0 from, 1939, I believe? Because wasn't Superman 1938 and Detective Comics number 27, I think, is 1939. First appearance of Batman. 6.0 is a very respectable grade, especially for a comic that old. Very respectable. The last one in a condition close to that from my research was like a 7.0, went for $1.7 million. The articles I saw talking about this had some experts saying that they think it'll go for 1.5 million. I think there's a chance that because there's so few of these, maybe it sets the new record. I think that there is a possibility, just to be clear. I think that there's a possibility. This auction is going to conclude. I said May 30th. I meant March 30th. This is incorrect. It ends in 3 days. So I just put that wrong. With a live bid in Dallas. Oh, there's, just to be clear, there are censuses taken for certain rare comics so that like we kind of know how many are out there. There are 14 known copies with a higher grading. That is not many. Worldwide, only 14. This is in the top 20 top graded existing copies of this. That's why I think that this could set a new record potentially. And yes, Beowulf is correct. Just to be clear, the interior is an issue of Captain America. Let's see. My favorite part about DC Detective Comics number 27 is, at least at one point, the copy DC themselves had didn't have a cover. So weird, collectors have better copies. Let's see. I was going to bid on that, but I just bought that Teen Titans cover with the Marvel 2-in-1. Yeah, which would you rather have? Since honestly, the prices are fairly close. Would you rather have Detective Comics number 27 in your collection, or would you rather own a copy of Marvel 2-in-1 that has a cover for New Teen Titans on it? Literally ask yourself, even if you were a billionaire, $1.2 to $1.5 million is not nothing. Which would you rather have? It's just that just puts into further context how crazy the prices that they're asking for on that supposed error comic. But yeah, so I don't know. Do you guys think that this will come under that 1.5 estimation, or do you think that because there are so few that it could potentially set a new record? I think it might set a new record because there's probably more than 14 millionaires out there that would love to own a copy of Batman's first appearance. I think it'll set a new record. See, at this point, it isn't just the demand. You're looking at the demand within the buying public that could afford this. And I think that there are definitely several millionaires that like comics. There's probably some investment bankers, let alone actors and stuff. 2-in-1 does cost $300 less, so you could get that deal. You think it will set a new record? I kind of think so too. I think that there will be a couple people that want this, and there's just not that many copies out there if this is what you want to own. You know what was something that was really cool when I lived in the DC area is I went several times up to Baltimore, Maryland, and Steve Jeppy, the guy who's the owner, president of Diamond Distribution, he used to have a comic book museum there. And I will say it was pretty cool, folks. It was pretty cool. It had stuff like Detective Comics number 27, Action Comics number 1, Amazing Fantasy 15. It had every classic old comic you'd want. It was like, under a glass cases and stuff, but you could get right up close to it and like see the texture of the paper and the coloring and stuff like that. They also had original art, going back to stuff like Popeye by E.C. Cigar on the walls. It was really cool. A lot of vintage toys based on like stuff from like the 40s and stuff, like made in tin. It was a really cool museum. It's shut down now. Oh, it's kind of stupid. This stuff is stupid. What, paying for old comics? Yeah, Todd McFarlane probably could afford it. Yes, I think most of us have picked this up in trade paperback form. I think that's plenty for most of us. It's worth reading. It's cool. But yeah. Did he have the Jerry Lewis number 1? I know you're joking, but he might have. There was a lot there. It was actually one of the first places I saw my wife in person. I don't know, Chrissy, if you're watching this, but she's said, she thought that like I went up with a group once, a group of comic book creators that I was friends with in DC, and Chrissy had heard about the group and went there, and she thought that I was funny. Oh, really? Yeah, I guess I don't remember that from Comic Book Men, huh? They let Walt Flanagan hold Action Comics number 1 at the Jeppy Museum. That's cool. Do the original pages still exist? I don't know. I bet a bunch of them do. But probably not all of them. I know that I say a lot of sarcasm in these comments. That is okay. But how can someone verify that the old comic is the actual comic? If they're behind glass and stuff, what if someone just makes a fake? Well, yeah, I mean, you're trusting a museum to have a curator that is checking this stuff. I'm sure that people try to pass off fakes to places like the CGC. There are professionals out there that are looking at very fine details, including what is the quality of the metal on the staples? Are these the actual staples that were produced in 1939 as compared to 2023? Like they're checking little things like that. Aha, she is there. That was where I first noticed you. It's a good memory. So they're looking at everything. The quality of the paper, is everything like, printed the way we know it to be from other existing copies that are verified. So yeah. I'm sure that there is some forgeries out there. I'm sure that there is. You could buy 55,000 copies of My Vampirella with that kind of money. You could. I don't think anybody needs 55,000 of my comic, but I would appreciate it if you haven't yet. I would really appreciate it if any of you are able to go to the Indiegogo campaign. Just look up Vampirella or Comic Tropes and get a copy. It would be nice. More news, right? Come on, Chris, more news. Let's give props to an artist that passed away. One of the few remaining from the Silver Age at this point. I don't think that we have anyone that was just Golden Age left. I think we've talked about this before, and we don't have too many from Silver Age anymore. There's a few, but there's not many anymore. But we're talking about Joe Giella. He was an inker. Very, very... his heyday was definitely the Silver Age of comics. He passed away this past week at age 94. That's a good long life. He worked until his later years too. He's probably most famous for inking guys like Gil Kane and Carmine Infantino, two fantastic artists. He enhanced their work on, respectively, Green Lantern and The Flash. Here's, The Flash of Two Worlds. He inked that. That is famously the first existence of the multiverse in comics, the idea of the multiverse. He also inked the Batman comics throughout the 1960s when Batman was at its height because of the live action TV show. He was born in Queens. He worked in New York. He began at DC in 1948, originally doing a lot of stuff like Westerns and stuff before the Silver Age when superheroes became popular again. He also worked on comic strips. He did 17 years worth of working on The Phantom, and a credit that he worked on for a long time, but people might not think of initially. He worked on the Mary Worth comic strip from 1991 all the way until he retired in 2016. So he worked into his 80s, right? 2016. Sorry, I was doing some math. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. That's so nice. I appreciate the support and the kind words. The Phantom is great. I'll definitely at some point do an episode about the Phantom. Very popular abroad. Very popular in places like Sweden and Australia. It's crazy how popular the Phantom is in other countries. But just wanted to give props to Joe Giella, Silver Age inker. True, Al Jaffe is older, 104. So he definitely lived throughout the Golden Age. I just don't know if he really worked on a whole lot of Golden Age comics. It's certainly not what he's best known for. He's best known for his work on Mad Magazine, which is awesome. But there's not too many guys like that. Not too many. Or ladies. We've got Ramona Fraden still alive. She's definitely a Silver Age artist that I love and respect. I should do an episode about her before she passes away. I don't want to sound like I'm cashing in on somebody passing away, I like the comic What If. Not every single issue, but I like the premise. It's just like it sounds if you've never read it. What if X happened instead of Y? So, there's been all sorts of famous things like what if Captain America woke up in the modern day instead of, the 1960s? What if Conan the Barbarian met Wolverine? What if the Dark Phoenix won? Blah, 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 blah. They've done lots of cool ideas. Like take a crucial storyline a lot of times in Marvel Comics history and say, what if it went this different way? And you can do whatever because it's, an alternate universe story. Well, they're bringing What If back, Marvel being they, with a bunch of one-shots. It's going to start in July. They're branding it a little bit darker. Earlier, Andy was saying, does anything ever go lighter? And we thought of a few rare examples. But yeah, generally stuff goes darker. They're literally calling it What If Dark. So we've got this one that says Spider-Gwen. And the story here is that, from the famous issue where Gwen Stacy, Spider-Man's girlfriend, died, a lot of people consider that the end of the Silver Age, the beginning of the Bronze Age, when comics became a little more serious. They're saying, in this story, Spider-Man dies fighting the Green Goblin. Gwen Stacy lives. We've got a cover by Greg Land, interior art by Ramon Box, and a story by Jerry Conway and Jody Houser. Jerry Conway wrote the original Spider-Man book at this period in time. So that's pretty cool. What If Dark? Come up with your best dark take on a famous Marvel storyline. What is your famous What If Dark? What if the Age of Apocalypse never ended? I agree. Yeah, the original What If storylines could almost be hilariously dark sometimes because it seemed like in every single one, a lot of main characters died. What If Dark? Wasn't expecting that one. What if Nightcrawler teleported into traffic? What if? What if Dr. Doom worked at 7-Eleven? I don't know that that's going darker. What if Darkhawk? See, you say what if Darkhawk was Lighthawk, but shouldn't it be what if Dark? It should be what if Darkhawk was, Darker Hawk. Diana, lovely to have you here. What if someone turned out the lights? Just don't turn off the dark. What if turn off the dark turned a profit? What if Chris knocked over cat water on Jack's cat comics? That's what he deserves. I'm going to knock some water over on my cat's comics. What if Wolverine had spoons for claws? Power Pack Dark. I don't know if you guys took this question seriously. I'm starting to wonder. What if Wolverine... Yeah, I did that one. Sorry. What if Series 2 did do dark for a bunch of issues? What if? My stool is dark. Tim, go see a doctor about that. What if Spider-Man was Cockroach Man? Ugh, gross. What if the Clone Wars never ended? I think Marvel would have ended if the Clone Wars never ended. What if Professor X killed the X-Men First Class team with his mind? Yeah, that's dark. What if Uncle Ben was a serial killer? The only cereal Uncle Ben kills is Frosted Flakes. What if Frank Castle became Deathlock? That's actually kind of a fun idea. Chad, that's not a bad one at all, actually. What if Marvel actually used the Malibu characters? They did briefly. What if Bruce Banner had just exploded instead? Yeah, no Hulk. I don't know. What if Dark Phoenix was made even more darker? Yes, that is a very Greg Land face. I totally agree. It looks a little bit porno. What if Cyclops had two visors? No reason he couldn't. He literally could have two different visors and just like shoot out of his left eye and his right eye. He could. All right. I can't keep up with it all. What if Aunt May was a terrible cook? I think Peter would have run away from home. What if Ultron was affected by ransomware? Ultron, huh? We should talk about him, but not yet. First, good news, everybody. Here's the big news of the week. Gold Key Comics is returning. And are they returning with more Disney books or Looney Tunes books? No, they're returning with the book everybody loved, Boris Karloff. Y'all remember Boris Karloff? He was Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein. Gold Key Comics ran from 62 to 84. Respectable run. At one point, they were really, really big. They did licensed book for like Disney, WB. They had horror. They did a bunch of stuff, honestly. Well, some new people bought the rights to the Gold Key brand, and they're relaunching Boris Karloff Mysteries, which was a horror book that ran for over 100 issues. Boris Karloff, yeah, he was... most famously, he was Frankenstein. In his later years, he appeared in a bunch of Roger Corman horror movies. He was the voice of the Grinch. If you ever watched that animated special at the holidays, he was good. He was really good. I don't think a lot of people necessarily are remembering him right now. I mean, other than film buffs. But anyway, so there's a new issue. Cover by Johnny Dombrowski. I have to admit, I don't know who that is. 3 original stories from creators including Michael W. Conrad. He's pretty well known. Steve Orlando, sure. Artyom Trakhanov, Kelly Williams, Jock, which was in the articles I saw spelled just J-O-K. So I guess that's not Jock, J-O-C-K. I don't know. Craig Hurd McKinney, Sergei Nazarov, and Kyle Arens. Each issue will have both a continuing story and a self-contained one. That campaign launches on Kickstarter tomorrow for a hardcover. No, Karloff was not C-3PO. I don't know where you got that. It's pronounced Frankenstein. What if Chris made Chris and the Comic Troopers comic? Hey, stranger things have happened. I do think Vincent Price is probably more well-known than Boris Karloff, so that's not a bad idea. Yeah, DC will combat it with Basil Carlo. That's one of the Clayface actors who's, to a degree, based on Boris Karloff, just to be clear. Did original Gold Key feature famous writers, artists? Some, a little bit. I'm trying to remember. I think some of the gold, if I'm remembering right, Gold Key did have superheroes like Solar Man of the Atom and Turok Dinosaur Hunter and Magnus Robot Fighter. I think that those were all Gold Key. So I think that they had some more like just industry pros working on that kind of stuff more than anything else. Well, excuse me. The Disney stuff. Yeah. They had Carl Barks. They were printing Carl Barks stories. So yeah. They printed a few that were well known. Anyway, it's not the way I would have relaunched Gold Key, but whatever. Let's see. A small film in the 60s called Target starred Karloff, directed by a young Peter Bogdanovich. Was that the one with like a sniper? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Because I think I've seen that. I bet Steve Ditko did something for Gold Key. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it wouldn't surprise me. Targets is a really interesting thing. Anyway, I just thought that was a little amusing that like some people obviously paid a bunch of money to get the rights to Gold Key, and they're hiring some well-known talent there. Like Michael Conrad is writing a bunch of stuff for DC these days, if I'm remembering right. Bruce Wayne in Batman Beyond is modeled on Boris Karloff. I think that that's definitely true. I definitely agree with that. Let's see. Okay, Victor looked it up or knew. Gold Key had Blake Harper, City Surgeon. I do not remember that. I wasn't reading many Gold Key comics, but I think I did have a Gold Key Winnie the Pooh comic. I think that I had a... Well, you know what? Now that I think of it, I think it was actually branded Whitman. Because Gold Key was a brand within a bigger publishing empire. And so like some of their comics said Gold Key, and sometimes they would also say Whitman, depending on whether it was like, well, basically where it was sold. Different stores. Gold Key had Lost in Space. Yeah, Lost in Space. I love the issue of Solar Man of the Atom that Valiant did. They poked holes in the original lore of Dr. Soul. The first issues. Yeah. They had the rights of their old comics. I don't think they have the rights to the old comics. Otherwise, I'm positive that they would be reprinting like some of the more famous superhero stuff. They have the right of the brand, but we will see. I'm sure they're going to try to get some of the rights that Gold Key used to have to tie together. Batman Beyond specifically designed Karloff in The Black Cat. Yeah, specifically Bruce Wayne was based off of Boris Karloff in The Black Cat. That was a Roger Corman one, I'm pretty sure. Jack Kirby modeled the Hulk on Karloff's version of Frankenstein's monster. That's definitely true. And I mean, you can even sort of see it just at glancing, like the way his brow is so sort of prominent and he's just so sort of blocky. You know, I mean, Boris Karloff literally to me looks like a Jack Kirby character. He's so blocky. I wonder who the new owners are. It was in the articles I was reading, but none of them were names that like I really recognized as famous. So I didn't really include it, but I encourage you to follow up and read on it. My NEC has a bunch of Gold Key comics. That's cool. Moving on. It's been a little while since we've had some stuff stolen, huh? Well, this wasn't exactly stolen from a comic book store, but it's pretty close. There's a place called the Hall of Heroes Museum, and it's a superhero museum in a town called Elkhart, Indiana. It was robbed last Sunday. 2 men, we know, they spent only 4 minutes inside, but they took 50 comic books. They caused a lot of damage. They smashed a lot of glass, broke some statues, just destroyed some stuff. I don't know why. Maybe to somehow arbitrarily cover up what they were doing or create confusion. I don't know. The executive director of Hall of Heroes is a guy named Alan Stewart, and he gave this quote to the press. He said, they hit 5 key cabinets all Marvel stuff. Our Marvel during World War II case, the Captain America #1 is our big loss. They've set up a GoFundMe that I've listed here if you want to look into maybe helping them recover. They've got a lot of it's all superhero based, but it's cool. You know, it's a modest museum, but it's been around for a while. They've definitely got a lot of cool stuff to look at. Kind of shitty, I would say. Yes, Diana, people definitely suck sometimes. Definitely. Here's the thing: Captain America #1 is not the kind of book you can like really sell easily at a comic book store or anything like a pawn shop. Probably isn't even going to be able to give you really what it's worth, although I guess thieves might be willing to take significantly less. At the same time, you know, if you're somewhere sort of in the Midwest and you see Captain America #1 pop up, well, question marks, question marks. This is just getting endemic. Maybe I'm making it seem worse by actually reporting on it because I do like a weekly news show. I don't know. But, it's stuff that crosses my desk. I don't think that they would either, because I think that they would know that that's like a big question mark. Somebody like, they're going to, if they're halfway smart, they're going to at least ask, like, tell me about it. Where's it come from? Why are you selling it? These are the questions you have to ask to like make sure that somebody has a story that makes sense, So that one's frustrating, but I've got another story about theft that at least has a happier ending. Thieves arrested in North Carolina. Yes, 3 men were arrested after they tried to sell about $4,000 worth of Marvel comic books and Marvel collectible figures from a local store. Police said that the men came into Gamers Alley and they were trying to sell comic books and collectibles that the employees had already been fortunately alerted to by the comic store that had been robbed earlier. So when they saw this stuff, this is why I talk about it, because this is a case where that store knew to be on the lookout for certain things that had been stolen. So they called the police. The 3 guys got arrested. They were charged with fraud and theft. One man was given a $50,000 bond, one a $5,000 bond, and the third man a $2,500 bond. Don't know how they come up with those numbers, to be honest. There was no more information there. 50,000 ain't nothing to come up with, that's for sure. I bet he's likely to be spending the night in jail until his arraignment date. But that's good news. These guys stole and they got themselves caught. So I like that. I thought I'd include a happy one. Yes, justice. Do you have news desk that reporters drop things in my inbox? Yes, I have a news desk, Jeannie. And I'm constantly going, give me stories about SpiderMan. But instead they tell me about, comic book thieves arrested in North Carolina. The third man was incredibly thin. Yes, the third man. Yeah, that's kind of nice when you get to like sort of see that some people got caught, that like stuff wasn't like destroyed. That's nice. Good news. Justice like lightning. There you go. It's wild how these thieves never think it through to the end game. Look, somebody that breaks into a store and steals something, that's the move of somebody that's either very dumb and isn't thinking of like how easy it could be to get caught, whether they do or not, like how easy it could be. And they're thinking about things like, and they're probably desperate, just being realistic there. I think that they see an area of opportunity. They're like, hey, if I broke in, I'd know exactly where to make a beeline to. I just grab a bunch of stuff. I'd be gone before the police show up. But what they're not always thinking about is, well, some of these places, like when I've done the news, we see that they have video cameras and they capture what the people look like. And sometimes we see that they try to sell stuff and people are already on the lookout. That's what I just said, Randy. What, are you not waiting for the delay? You got to give me a good 10 minutes after I announce an article to be sure to follow up. It's good to see you here, buddy. It's good to see you here. Comic Clerk Alliance thwarts Comic Thieves. That's a better title. Steve, you did a better job than me. Hello, sir. Or ma'am. I guess I don't know. But hello, Mandela. So I was kind of happy about that one. Moving on. You all know that I like Ninja Turtles. I talked about Last Ronin being a very good comic last year. Well, they're going to make it into a video game. This news came this week. Paramount Global's Senior Vice President for Games and Emerging Media is a guy named Doug Rosen. He was on he talked to Polygon and he announced that they are adapting Last Ronin into a video game. He said that it would have a tone similar to God of War. So primarily a single player game. Pretty much up to now, if there's been a Ninja Turtles game, it's been multiplayer. You play as all the turtles. You play together. But this one will focus, obviously, on the last turtle. But, of course, this is still, just to be clear, set expectations. It's a few years off. I mean, the comic only just came out, basically. Games take a while to produce. But I think that could be a lot of fun. See you later, Ashley. Thank you for dropping in. Oh, wow. Oh, wow is right. Oh, wow is right. So I thought that sounded very cool. A single player Ninja Turtles game going for something like God of War totally sounds good. Totally sounds good to me. We shall see. But I could see how you could level up. You'd have to this is a turtle that has not been fighting for a while and is sort of brought back in to resolve unfinished business, is going to have to sort of train and level up, gain access to the skills of his fallen brothers and father. It's a good idea. It's a very good idea, actually. It lends itself to a modern video game. Guess who's hiring? Frank Miller is hiring. Believe it, folks. Yeah, Frank Miller Presents is obviously the new company that Frank Miller started with Dan DiDio. And they've announced that they are going to have portfolio reviews for pencilers specifically. They're looking to find new artists. So publisher Dan DiDio will specifically be the one scouting talent at Comic-Cons. That includes, I'm pretty sure GalaxyCon at Richmond, Virginia just happened this past weekend, actually. Next is WickedCon up in Boston. We've got the Phoenix Fan Fusion event, Washington State SummerCon. I go to that one, but I don't think I'm looking to get work as a penciler, so I'm not going to be in line there, but I will be at that event. And then the GalaxyCon events at Raleigh, North Carolina, Austin, Texas, and Columbus, Ohio. So a few places throughout the country, definitely hitting a pretty good variety of places throughout the country. If you are looking to get work as a penciler, you could at least get the benefit of a portfolio review by a professional. No, I don't think I'm going to take my portfolio. Yeah, it's wicked piss, huh? What an opportunity. Anybody here going to go to any of those? I had not heard of GalaxyCon until I read this article. I was like, GalaxyCon? I just had not heard of it, but apparently it's a series of conventions and they've been around for like 16 years. I did not realize. They started one in Florida that's pretty big. I want to say it's called something more like SuperCon, but that one got bought by ReedPop, the folks that do like C2E2, Emerald City Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. They bought the Florida one. None of those are near you. Which one would be the closest? And then we're going to figure out your exact street address. What do you think of the FMP's Fedora logo? I think that it's very respectful to the ladies out there. Milady? I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I will read something by Frank Miller Presents that I got the first issue of Ronin 2. Good artwork by Philip Tan. Didn't really care for the story, so I didn't stay with it. But when the the Sin City book set in the Old West comes out, I'll be picking that up. I will. Yeah. Guar has mentioned the Richmond. Is Guar still together? I thought that like their band leader died, so I thought that they weren't around anymore. First you're hearing of this too. One of these isn't too far away from me. Well, there you go. Wicked Can would be the closest to me. Well, there you go. Wicked Can in Boston. Gene, you going to go to Wicked Can? Yeah. Ma Miller. Tips Fedora. Tips my logo. Odorous went back to Scumdogia is all. Oh, okay. Is that what happened? Okay. Miller is an insane person. I think that Frank Miller did have a period where he seemed to be having troubles. I think it seems like he has recovered to a large degree. It doesn't mean I love everything he's putting out, but I do see some more positivity coming out of him. If I come, you'll go? Yeah, it's a little far for me to just go for a weekend's convention. I wish I could. That would be fun. We'd have a good time. But if you know somebody out there that is trying to break in as a penciler, hey, a portfolio review is a great place to at least get some good feedback. I feel like that used to be a bigger part of comic conventions. Maybe that's just me like looking back at them differently, but I just remember that Comic-Cons used to have lines for portfolio reviews at almost all of the publishers. All the publishers would have a pavilion. I just remember that being a big thing and a place to get some real good feedback, even if it wasn't like going to lead to you getting a job. It might hurt a little, but you'd get some good feedback. It's really valuable. Oh, good. I'm glad that you get to visit them. That's great, Jeannie. I have no idea what happened with Lynn Varley. The last time I heard about Lynn Varley was she was selling some original art from, I want to say, Dark Knight Returns that she said she owned, and Frank Miller was saying, no, I still own that. She stole it from me. But that was a few years back now. I waited in those dreaded smelly lines. You still got work at a pretty young age, Jim. So I know you put in your time doing that, but you also broke in pretty darn young. Let's see. Ed Piskor and Frank Miller would be an interesting team up, though I don't think Ed would. I don't know. I'm sure that he'd love to talk to him on his show. Those guys, Cartoonist Kayfabe, get some nice interviews, that's for sure. Where did I see Cartoonist Kayfabe mentioned recently? Oh, yeah. There's a website, PC Mag. I believe they used to have a print edition. I don't know if they still do, to be honest. But they had an article, like, it was either yesterday or the day before. I think it was just yesterday, that lists a bunch of YouTube shows that they recommended. And within comics, they recommended my channel and Cartoonist Kayfabe. And then for some reason, like What Culture Comics, which I thought was a little odd, but yeah, happy to get some free promotion. Andy, you also had to wait in those smelly lines to get some advice. Man, you guys both have some really great stories of getting feedback from interesting professionals. That's really cool. I think conventions used to be a little stinkier. I'll be honest. The last couple that I've been to since the pandemic, not as stinky. I don't know if I've just had good luck, but yeah. Okay. You're watching this like later. So Al Jaffe did comics for Timely and Atlas in the 40s. Okay. Ziggy Pig and Silly Seal. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So just some funny animal comics. Funny animal comics used to be huge. Thanks for sharing. Thanks. That is, yeah, that's really cool. Well, all right. Frank Miller is hiring. What else do we have? There's always an interesting deal on Humble Bundle for comics, and I feel like I can't mention them all the time, but this one just felt like it was an exceptional deal that I bet a bunch of you out there would love to take advantage of. You can get all of Attack on Titan, both the main series and their various spin-offs, all of them on Humble Bundle right now for whatever you choose to donate. That like adds up to, like they said, if you bought all this in print, it'd be worth $832. You can put in whatever you want to charity and you will get them digitally, but still, that, like, if you've ever been curious about this manga and you haven't read it, or maybe you're halfway through and you just want to finish it for cheap, pretty cool in my opinion. It's a ton of comics. It's a ton of comics that you get. And the money goes to BINC, which is the Book Industry Charitable Foundation. And that helps both bookstores, small bookstores really, and comic book shops that are just having troubled times. Like maybe they got a window broken into or something and they need help repairing it. That's what BINC is for. So, hey, I haven't read the manga here, but for this kind of a price, I'm going to get it. Like that seems like pretty hard to beat. Let's see. I feel the cons have been right on top of each other lately. That's probably true. Also, Comic-Cons are more 50-50 male to female than they used to be. Yeah, they're still, I think, like more adults than kids, but I think you're right that they are pretty, I don't know if I'd go 50-50. I would think closer to a 60-40 male to female, but maybe. It definitely seems like it's expanding. Let's see. Guar is around, and I plan on seeing him in July. Well, thank you for the super chat, and I hope you have a great time at the concert. Is the ElfQuest bundle still up? Because if it is, maybe I should get that too. I would like to read all of ElfQuest. I've only read a little of it, but I would like, if it's still up, I'll have to get that one too. Yeah, if you're okay reading digital comics, Humble Bundle is like your money's going to a charity, and you get so many comics for like such a small price. It's the best deal in town if you want to just read a bunch of comics or try something new, but like don't want to invest a ton of money. Like you could be, it's a pretty good option, folks. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. You can just type in Humble Bundle Attack on Titan or just Humble Bundle and it'll take you there and you can see things like this. Great deals. And the money always goes to charity. Ultron, there's a rumor. I haven't talked a whole lot about sort of movie news, but I liked how Ultron looked. I liked James Spader's voice for it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Ultron than just his single appearance in Avengers 2, although technically he has appeared in something else. I'll talk about that in a minute. But there are rumors now that Ultron might be brought back for Armor Wars. Armor Wars was originally going to be a Disney Plus show starring War Machine, Rhodey, but they decided that they'll make that into a movie. And in the comics, the storyline was Tony Stark was going around sort of policing his technology, which had been stolen over the years by places like Russia. There was like the Guardsmen, which were like a prison unit for supervillains, but they had like sort of stolen his technology. All these people, and he was like, you know what? I stopped manufacturing weapons through Stark. I need to be responsible for my Iron Man technology. And he went around and fought like a bunch of villains like, Crimson Dynamo and Titanium Man and stuff like that. It was a great storyline, honestly. It was really good. And there's some bad personal stuff going on in Tony Stark's life at the time, which made it even more challenging. Well, obviously, Tony Stark is gone, but that story could very easily still be adapted and make a lot of sense for Jim Rhodes. So presumably the movie would have him doing something similar, like recapturing and controlling Stark technology, which Stark never wanted it to get out there to the government. That was a big part of Iron Man 2. In the movies, Stark, co-created Ultron. That would be his responsibility. So I don't know. As far as a rumor goes, I think that sounds like a pretty good idea to have Ultron as a villain again and to have him as part of Armor Wars. I like that idea. Maybe it won't be good, but I like the idea. I hope that rumor proves true. And as long as I'm mentioning Ultron, Marvel did recently use him for something else, James Spader's version of Ultron. If you go on a Marvel cruise, they show you a short Ant-Man and the Wasp thing where they're supposedly on the cruise and like showing, like it's a video of them showing you some shrinking technology, and it balloons out of there to Ultron emerging and trying to steal Pym particles. It's got guest appearances by Anthony Mackie's Captain America, Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel. It's actually pretty fun. Go on YouTube if you're curious. It's just a short bit of fluff, but it's got all the actors, and it's just kind of a fun little thing going up against Ultron. If you haven't seen that. Yeah, I think it would be a great time to bring back some Justin Hammer. Why does Ultron got teeth? What would you eat with? He's got to eat his vibranium with something. MCU Age of Ultron feels like a week of Ultron. Yeah, it was quick. That weekend of Ultron was a rough day. What's this? EJ just commented, and then we've got another. Oh, hey, Marvin Nation. Lovely to have you here. I have borrowed digital comics from my library. Yes, I have. It's great. I missed something. Where was it? Darn it. Oh, yeah. EJ had just commented he drew a lot of Transformers for IDW, so I just saw this comment. Fallen Gemini says, whenever Humble Bundle has an IDW Transformers bundle, the All Hail Megatron is the uncensored version. Ooh, it has blood on a kid's shoe. Oh my god. Oh my god. Sure, why not? Showcase highly dangerous experiments in the middle of the ocean. It's played for laughs. Obviously things go wrong. It's played for laughs. They were, and then it does some funny stuff where after the film ends, you're watching it in the buffet, not the buffet, the dining room, and then actors come out. They can come out in the full Ant-Man and Wasp costumes because of the helmet, and they walk around and they play audio from the actors over the speakers so that they're supposedly there, and the dining staff comes out with enlarged cookies and stuff like that. It's kind of funny. Let's move on because there's a few more pieces of news, and I'd love to just give a couple recommendations and reviews of the comics that came out this week. Megalopolis. Anybody that's a film fan might know this, but if you're not a huge film buff, you might not. Francis Ford Copolla. Great director. Definitely directed a lot of movies that I love. Come on. Apocalypse Now, Godfather 1 and 2. Hey, 3 isn't that bad. Just doesn't compare to 1 and 2. What else did he do that was awesome? The Outsiders. Dracula. Yeah, come on. He's made a lot of great movies. Well, he's getting into comics, folks. There's an Image imprint called Syzygy, and they announced at WonderCon this past weekend that there will be a Megalopolis comic. Why is that a big deal? Because the director, Francis Ford Copolla, has been working on his idea for a movie off and on since the 80s. He's been talking about it since the 80s, wanting to do this big sci-fi movie called Megalopolis. It just finished production recently. It's got Adam Driver, Aubrey Plaza, a bunch of people. It doesn't matter. A bunch of big actors, okay? So he's coming back. He hasn't directed a movie in a long time. The only thing he's been doing is making that wine, which is decent, actually. But yeah, so at WonderCon, Syzygy co-founder Chris Real and artist Jacob Phillips were announced to be adapting an original story by Francis Ford Copolla to create Megalopolis, the graphic novel. And Chris said, this isn't just them licensing the idea and making their own spin-off or anything. Like, no, he went to the set and would talk back and forth with Francis Ford Copolla, and they came up with this story for a comic book to expand the story. Peggy Sue got married. That was Coppola? Chris Riel is a small guy. Smart guy. Ugh, I stuttered. I look forward to this. I do too. And Jacob Phillips has been doing great stuff on That Texas Blood. I don't think Nicolas Cage is involved, but obviously the Coppola family is huge. I believe Talia Shire, Francis Ford Coppola's sister, is in it. I believe Jason Schwartzman, one of his nephews, is in it. So he does have some family members in it. The Coppola family is humongous. Maybe not humongous, but it's big. I don't know if Nicolas Cage is in it or not. I don't think he's one of the main characters. It is an ensemble piece. It's set like in a future, like sort of like a utopia future is the idea. And it's just something he's wanted to make for a really, really long time. And I guess the technology caught up and he got to the point where he could afford it. He went through sort of like the 80s and 90s, Coppola did, I think, in debt for whatever reason. So that was a big part of why he did movies like, say, Dracula and stuff for the studios, is he was just sort of trying to, pay off his debt and stuff. He directed Captain EO? I don't remember that. That is so funny. We are here to change the world. If you've ever seen Captain EO, there's a one of the dancers in it is comedian Doug Benson. Before he became the podcaster and stand-up comedian that he is today, he was working as a dancer in Hollywood briefly. Francis Ford Coppola did write the introduction to the original Frank book by Jim Woodring. Nice pull, Wally. Thanks for adding that. Jim Woodring. And we'll just tie it together. My wife, Chrissy, used to babysit for Jim Woodring's kids. So, small world, huh? There's a recent graphic novel titled Leaving Megalopolis with no relation to the project. Yes, the term megalopolis is not original. It just means a mega city, basically. So, yeah, anybody could use that. But that is the title. And I'm excited for it personally. Tucker? Did he? See, I'm forgetting some of these movies. I guess I think of Godfather and Dracula and Apocalypse Now when I think of Francis Ford Coppola. I have not seen that. Coppola's Conversation. No, I have not seen that. But I would be curious too. He's a great director. He was one of George Lucas's friends that really pushed George Lucas to do his own thing and do Star Wars and stuff. So, yeah. George Lucas was into the 80s and 70s comic scene. I wonder if Coppola was involved with him at that point. I don't know. I don't have all of this in a clear timeline. But I know, there was one actor that was in The Outsiders, and I'm forgetting which one, because, of course, there were so many that have continued to be famous actors. But, supposedly he was talking about, Megalopolis all the way back then as, what he wanted to do next, and he just had to keep pushing it forward. I didn't know that. A Jim Woodring documentary. Oh, I'll look that up. Thanks for the heads up, Andy. I appreciate that. Anyway, I like Francis Ford Coppola, and I like his wine okay. But definitely curious to see what he does in comics. And I'll tell you, trust me, if this does well, we're going to see Martin Scorsese making an Ultron comic book. It wasn't Ralph Macchio. It wasn't Tom Cruise. It wasn't... Who was it? I can't remember, folks. I can't remember. I'm terrible at names, too. Yes, originally Lucas was going to direct Apocalypse Now and Coppola was going to direct Star Wars. They swapped because Lucas was so behind schedule. Well, I'd never heard about Coppola directing Star Wars, I have to admit. That's new to me. I did hear about Lucas potentially directing Apocalypse Now. No, it wasn't C. Thomas Howell either. Maybe it was Matt Dillon or Emilio Estevez that mentioned he talked about it back then. Might have been Matt Dillon. It's hard to remember. Literally everybody in The Outsiders, like, they cast that movie so well. Those were all super young guys, and they all went on to have big careers. All of them. It's just amazing. Just amazing. The Conversation is in Coppola's top 4 movies? Huh. All right, I'll keep that in mind. I don't think it was C. Thomas Howell, because I don't think he was doing any interviews lately. But yeah. It wasn't Patrick Swayze either, because this was more recent. You're not going to get a David Lynch Return of the Jedi. You got David Lynch Dune. You got David Lynch Dune. It's an interesting experience. Interesting. I think that The Outsiders is the first book for a lot of people. Yeah. Outsiders still holds up. That was then, this is now. Very good sequel, but less production value. Never saw That Was Then, This Is Now. Never saw that. Oh, you know what? Tobers, it was Rob Lowe that said it. Thank you. That was it. Rob Lowe said that he was talking to Coppola during The Outsiders, and that he told him that Coppola was talking about wanting to make Megalopolis. That's who it was. It was Rob Lowe. Look at all those stars. Tom Cruise, back when he had his original weird teeth. Not trying to be mean. Just Tom Cruise has some pretty funky teeth in that movie. We're almost done. I've got this one other piece of news, and then I just want to go through some of the latest comics real quick. There's a pretty ambitious comic with Mark Miller and Frank Whiteley. They've done some great stuff together. It's called The Ambassadors. It's going to be a 6-issue series. First issue does come out this Wednesday. So it's different artists in each issue, but Frank Whiteley is drawing the first one. It's going to follow a worldwide competition to find 6 people worthy of receiving superpowers. Basically, there's this South Korean scientist, really brilliant. She creates a process that can create superpowers, but it's only, I guess, able to create 6 total superpowers or something. There's 8 billion people in the world. How do you choose? It's going to be some very different people in each issue getting superpowers. Other artists, Carl Kerschel, Travis Charest. Haven't seen a comic book by him in a while, so that's pretty exciting. Olivier Coipel? Oh, God, I can't pronounce it. Forget it. Matteo Buffagni and Matteo Scalera. Great artists. There's no question that Mark Miller can always attract top-tier artists. But I'm a huge fan of Frank Whiteley, so I will be checking this out. And depending on how much I like issue 1, we'll see if I continue. But it would be pretty hard for me to turn down the Travis Charest issue as well. So big fan of him. Not a Pepsi superhero. That is a South Korean flag. Love seeing Matteo Scalera on that list. He's great. Yeah, Travis Charest drawing an issue. I think the last time he drew comics had to have been the stuff for humanoids, Metabarons, which was quite a while ago. Yep. Who Wants to Be a Superhero? Will Fat Mama be in it? I remember that. That was a reality show, right? Yes, I love Quitely's work too. I think he's a master. I think he's underrated, even though he's very popular. I still think he's underrated. I think Frank Whiteley makes some incredible decisions in his storytelling and takes chances. I love it when artists try new things. Hey, as long as we're talking about artists trying new things, you know what I saw on social media that I should have had in the news, but I forgot. Bruno Redondo is obviously doing incredible things in Nightwing. It inspired me to make that one Comic Tropes episode about motion in comics, because he did that one whole issue of Nightwing where it was just one panel, like every page was connected in one long shot, and he had multiple instances of Nightwing moving across the scene. It's great. He's doing an issue where it will entirely be told from Nightwing's point of view. Everything's going to be from like the main character's point of view. Every story. That's innovative. I can't wait to see that. I have to imagine that will include some really interesting perspective choices. Possibly curvilinear perspective will be required if you're up on top of buildings, like looking out from like, your point of view. I don't think you can get away with even just 3-point perspective. I think you're going to have to do like at least 5-point perspective. I cannot wait to see that. Boy, that's what I love seeing, though, is like artists pushing themselves to do something new. And I don't know how you keep up on a monthly schedule, coming up with these ideas and executing them, but pretty exciting. I certainly have. Thank you for asking. Yes, as far as scientifically getting superpowers, I think one of the best comics premises is Strike Force Morituri. I did an episode about it. It would make for an incredible movie or TV show, but the rights are just a total mess. But it's really good. Yeah, exactly. I don't think 3-point perspective is going to be it for like, I think that there could be some shots depending on like how narrow you focus a panel where you might like have like, a simpler perspective. But I think that there's going to have to be some establishing shots that have some really complex stuff going on. So I'm pretty excited about that. All right. I'm going to go on. No, I wasn't really going to talk about Jonathan Majors just because I'll just mention it briefly. Actor who played Kang recently. He was arrested by the police for allegedly assaulting his girlfriend. However, she recanted her accusation, and Major's lawyer said that there was even video footage in the cab that proved that he didn't assault her. So it sort of sounds like it, like, maybe he's not a great person, but it sounds like this isn't going anywhere. So I didn't really have anything to say about it. It's kind of weird. Travis Charay says Andy Kuhn did a thing called Space Girl, which he self-published after the Meta Barons. I did not know that. I will look that up. Thank you very much for the heads up. That is really, really cool. There was a film noir that was filmed by the lead character's site in the 40s. Very cool. Of course, doing it like pencil and ink is going to be even harder. Oh, yeah. Great point. Yeah. Like if something hits him or something, how do you display that? Like there's going to be some really interesting stuff going on with that idea. Really, really cool idea. Last piece of news I have. I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity here, but an international comics museum just opened this week. It's called like the PAF or PAFF International Museum of Comic Art. And it is open in a town called Pordenone, Italy. That's in the Northeast. PAF apparently stands for, and I don't speak Italian, so you'd have to tell me what this means, but Palazzo Arti Fumetto Friuli. All I know is like art and that fumetto is, like comics. So something comics art, something. I don't know. It's going to be in this really old via, really old building here. And they're going to have interactive exhibits. It's going to be talking about like the whole history of comics from like, newspaper strips to American comic books to manga and fumetti and other, stuff, bande dessinée. Some of the people that they mentioned, they'll have like exhibits for Karl Barks, Scrooge McDuck, Milton Caniff, what's that? Terry and the Pirates, Giorgio Cavazzano, not familiar. Will Eisner, come on, The Spirit, Floyd Gottfredson, Mickey Mouse, Chester Gould, that's Dick Tracy, Benito Giacoviti, I don't know, Magnus, I assume that these are Italian artists. Milo Manara, of course, I do know. He's done a lot of erotic art, but also like a few things for like Marvel and over the years. George McManus, Andrea Pazienza, Hugo Pratt. Love Hugo Pratt. Love that. So that's cool. Alex Raymond, get out of here. Charles Schultz, come on. Peanuts is huge. Art Spiegelman, Mouse. Some great variety in there. That sounds awesome. So if for any reason you live in Europe or you're traveling in the northeast of Italy, I think I'd have to recommend check out this comics art museum. I don't know any news about Liv Tyler, I have to admit. Larry, thank you for the super chat. Hello, Chris and fellow troopers. I still prefer tropers, so I'm going to refer to myself as such from now on. That's fine. They're both good. Much love, everyone. You should definitely do a PPP variant cover for future Trapster. Yes, a Paste Pot Pete variant cover. If Marvel was smart, they would hire me to do a Paste Pot Pete story. Oh, somebody's helping me. International Palace of Comics Art. That's a cool title. Oh, I love that. Definitely going? Oh, man. Kale, you got to tell us if you go, or like post pictures on something like Twitter or Instagram. And that sounds great. That sounds great. It looks like it's a fairly good sized venue. Going to have a lot of history going back to comic strips and newspapers, and a lot of international comic stuff as well. But obviously, just like reading through this partial list of creators, a lot of American creators. So there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff represented there. Oh, look at this. Jim says, going to be in Italy in early May. This guy goes worldwide, folks. Got to check out that museum. Please take some pictures, or even better, video. Take a bunch of video. Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. So I'm glad that people are excited that I can pass that on. I didn't see this one mentioned in any of the comic book news sites, like, comic book resources or Multiversity Comics or whatever. But I just saw it, like, because I look up all sorts of comic book news every single day, and I came across this, and I was like, that looks cool. That looks really fun. Oh, yeah. Dylan Dog is definitely a very well-respected book in Italy. Giorgio Cavazzano is a great artist of Disney-related comics. He did a great parody of Corto Maltese's Ballad starring Mickey Mouse. No kidding. That's so cool. Take me with you, Jim, please. Yeah, that would be so cool if you did. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. The opportunities that some of these guys have, these comic book pros. Dylan Dog, Tex, yep, pretty famous Italian comics. There's a lot of famous Italian comics. You've probably heard of more than you think. Tell you what, let me quickly go through a few great comics that came out this week. And I won't spend too long on this, but The Punisher, folks, this is an all-time storyline, I think, now. By the way, I just realized my binding is pretty weird. Look at that. There's a staple in, for like, this one's on the edge, then this one's in. I didn't even realize that when I was reading it. It didn't really cause an issue. We get to know more about Frank's past, and Frank continues to be corrupted by the evil, like, demon known as the Beast that the ninjas, the Hand, worship. This one takes Frank right up to completely irredeemable, right up to that edge, and doesn't quite cross that line. There's still a certain moral line that Frank Castle won't cross, and I think it's just enough to still classify him as an anti-hero. But boy, he is out of control, just devastating criminals worldwide. This is a pretty violent book, but it's really good. Maria Castle has become an interesting character. She is not a completely passive wife that is okay with everything, and yet she's also not somebody that's likely to turn on Frank. We never really knew who Maria, his wife, was, right? We never really knew. It all started with, like, his origin of his wife and kids being killed. So anyway, yeah, this is still the Hand storyline. This is issue 10. The art is great and the story is great. I'm going to call this like an all-time top Punisher story. I am really enjoying it. I am really enjoying it. I've talked before about how I like this run of She-Hulk. I think Rainbow Roll is doing a good mix of action, superhero stuff, combined with legal drama, combined with the thing that sets it apart the most is that it is a romance. This is a romance comic. The only thing I'll say is that they sort of get past that by the halfway through point, and She-Hulk goes up against a new villain, and I don't really care about him from the first issue. So this was sort of like forgettable. Bluebook, issue 2, James Tynion, Michael Avon Oeming. This is talking about real people that a husband and wife in New Hampshire, they seemingly reluctantly told a story about how they witnessed a very close UFO with beings inside it, and they did not love the experience. It's a seeming alien encounter. They were heavily debriefed by the military, and this is telling some of that story. It is very weird and very much based on true accounts. So, are they telling the truth? Did something completely inexplicable happen to them, and this is just how they were able to explain it? I don't know. It doesn't really take a hard stance yet, but I will say it's a fascinating story. It's a really fascinating, well-executed story. I've been enjoying this sort of Harry Potter meets superhero book by Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman. This does something that I would sort of call a storytelling trope, where the main character is going between his life as, like this magician fighting, supervillains, and finding himself in an insane asylum, being told that world is not real. That's a story that we've been told before a bunch. I was really hoping I'd see something about the character, using his intelligence to figure out what's real versus what isn't, either, emotional intelligence or critical thinking or using, a spell. But it just sort of does get taken away, and I don't know. He doesn't really think his way out of it. So I was a little disappointed that the main character wasn't super proactive in this one. Not a super strong recommendation. Here is one I give a super strong recommendation to, and I've been talking this up since it began. This is issue 6 of Damn Them All. All we know so far before this issue is that there are various devils of hell unleashed on the world, but they don't have independent agency. They're all bound by a coin, which is very easy somehow to get a hold of, and they have to obey the wishes of whoever's holding that coin. Obviously very dangerous, because you're dealing with a lot of people who have no experience with magic. You're dealing with a lot of the underworld. And the main character here, her uncle was a great, well, maybe not great, but really, really good at magic. And he was a bastard. He was basically John Constantine, if we're being honest. She talks to his spirit in this. She's summoned him to try to get some clarity, and she figures out what happened. And I'm not going to give everything away for most of this issue, but this explains some of the premise. When this guy knew that he was dying, that he couldn't heal himself from a cancer or anything, he cast a spell that banished all of the demons from hell, so that he could, if he's going to hell, at least it wouldn't be so bad, was his logic. So he banished them to Earth, and that's what's caused this huge amount of chaos with people controlling devils. It goes in some crazy directions from there. Just great. It all involves magic and the underworld and looking for loopholes in magic contracts. It's really, really good. It's really cool. I'm kind of disappointed by Bluebook, since I expected it to be about aliens. Well, it sort of is, K-Bar. It just isn't fighting. Yeah. Wow, talk about selfish. He made hell nicer and earth worse. Well, here's the thing. He didn't make hell nicer because it turns out, well, like these demons and stuff, they have their roles to play. It wasn't all about torturing people down there, though. It was more just keeping an orderly afterlife. So hell is like a completely now like bleak, empty, nothing experience. So he sort of made hell worse by assuming that it was all about torture, and he also made earth worse. So yeah, it's fascinating. I have a story in my comic about a demon-possessed demon. Okay. Hello, Rishi. I've been reading some of the Dawn of DC stuff because this is a super easy jumping on point if you're curious about any superhero stuff. This issue is about Superman fighting Parasite, who is traditionally sort of a monster that can absorb energy, including Superman's powers. But something has been done by scientists to him. Now he can multiply. So instead of fighting like one big parasite, he's fighting hundreds, if not thousands, of parasites. And then it gets really bad when other people start to become parasite. Why are they becoming parasite? Because he multiplied on a microscopic level and got into the air. I don't know how Superman's going to solve this one. But I like this one even more as far as Superman stories go. This is Batman Superman World's Finest. Issue 13 starts a new storyline. So this is a good jumping on point. Written by Mark Waid, art by Dan Mora. Great art by Dan Mora. This businessman, Simon Stagg, was killed, and the prime suspect for Batman and Superman is a superhero known as Metamorpho. Hey, we were talking about Ramona Fradon earlier. She very famous for co-creating Metamorpho and working on him for years. Yeah, so he's a superhero. He seems to be a good guy, but everything points to him. It's a locked room murder mystery. Like nobody could like shows signs of breaking in or breaking out, but Metamorpho can turn into gas. So and has a reason to want this guy dead. So anyway, they're hunting him down and trying to get answers. Just look though, like come on, that's good classic superhero stuff. Dan Moore is pretty special. Last thing, final issue of Swamp Thing Green Hell by Jeff Lemire and Doug Mahnke. I hadn't seen it much Doug Mahnke stuff in a while. This takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where the modern day Swamp Thing was brought forward to try to save humanity from the forces of the green and the red trying to destroy humanity by a really old John Constantine. It involves characters like Animal Man's daughter, Maxine. It has Dead Man, and it just has a bunch of people just trying to survive in this really horrible world. But it's nice. It's a decent issue. I wouldn't call it like groundbreaking, but it's very, very well done and well executed for what it is. Great artwork, solid storytelling. Look at this. Lovely. Give me more of that. Not sure if you see what I did there. Well, I am quite dumb. So K-Bar got it. Swamp Thing Green Hell, worth buying the oversized hardcover? Yeah, I think it would be. I think it would be. It doesn't really get into continuity stuff. You don't need to know that much about it. It's its own story. It's its own story. That's everything I had to talk about in terms of the comics of the week and the news of the week. I'm definitely excited in terms of news about things like Kodansha's K manga app. What else? I think the Humble Bundle on Attack on Titan is a really strong one. Wanted to recommend that. Yeah. The more the merrier. Oh, thank you, ChemDog. Wasn't there a Justice League episode back in the day with Metamorpho? If you're talking about the animated series, I'm pretty sure there would have been, but I didn't really watch it. Sorry. I was like either in college or just starting my professional career, so I didn't really see a whole lot of Justice League Unlimited. This was fun, folks. It's a little past 2 hours, so I am going to get some dinner and get to work on the next Comic Tropes episode. Let's see. But you know what? I'm going to... yes, we talked about it earlier. I said it's pretty good. For what it is, it's pretty good. I don't think we're going to get any more of it, but it's... okay. With your time. I don't know if it's a lot of money, but it's worth your time. And then I was going to just pull one thing up again. Oh, wow. Hold on. Thank you, Joshua Hayes. Do you have a fave Frank Quitely work? Maybe We Three. It's a good one. But it's hard to say. That could be different on any given day, honestly. Could be different on any given day. Last thing. I got to plug it some more. I've got my my cover. Is that coming out fuzzy now? That's weird. Oh, there we go. So yeah, the link, if you want to read it, is here. It's also in the description for this episode. You can just go to the description and click on the link. It'd mean a lot to me if you considered just getting a single copy of my cover. There's some other cool stuff. By the way, that's for issue 6 of Vampirella Year 1, written by Christopher Priest. The first issue, Vampirella Year 1, issue 1, does hit comic book stores this Wednesday, if you're curious to read the whole thing from the beginning. But I'm mostly just promoting that I did a fun, silly cover here, throwing in a bunch of tropes, and I just appreciate any support you could give. And tell you what, if you're like, hey, I'm not in a position to support it financially, if you were even willing to just share the link to somebody else that you think might, that means a lot to me too. It means a lot. I appreciate your consideration anyway. I had a great time talking to people. And do it. Thank you. My sister's a big supporter. Thank you, Jeannie. I appreciate it. Issue 6, Vampirella Year 1, Gorilla cover. Yes. And just to be clear, it's only available at that link. It's a campaign, and you can order one. It will come out in a couple months. It's not something that you can get at your comic shop. They're doing it that way. They're doing it as its own campaign. So the only way to get it is for like another 2 weeks, basically, on Indiegogo. Okay? So pointing that out, I'd appreciate your support. Let's see. Love from Malaysia. Very nice. Can't wait to get my own copy and my own Infotron. Well, I hope you ordered it. And yeah, like there are options once you order whatever cover you want. You can do add-ons, and like I've got these. I made a bunch of these Infotron plushes, like based like. And you know what was cool? Like, so I've got this silly mascot that I invented like back in the day for I think I did for like Civil War, or yeah, I think Civil War is what I first created him, and I don't use him all the time, but it's just sort of a fun little mascot. And I found a plush company that lets you draw what you want. And I sort of drew this cute version of him, like sort of like smiling and only available at that link. Exactly. Yep. But anyway, thanks for being with me, folks. I had a great time talking about the comic book news and stuff. I'm excited. I was trying to get an episode of Comic Tropes up this past weekend. It was going to be a sort of a light one talking about superhero glow-ups when they've like completely changed their costume and their look, and it like stayed. Captain Britain was a famous example, and Nightwing from Robin, things like that. I got delayed due to like some of my health issues, so I do apologize there. You know, it hurts me too, because that means YouTube revenue goes down. Less people that watch my YouTube show are seeing my campaign. So I'm super motivated to put out episodes right now, but unfortunately my health got in the way this past week, and that's very frustrating. I think I'm going to skip that lighter episode and just move into what I was going to do next, which is I want to do a deep dive on Arthur Adams. I think he's got really interesting techniques in history. So we're going to talk about, I think, Arthur Adams is my next episode. But anyway, that's everything I've got to say. Haven't given it to you yet, so you get it now. You get this. You get this. What's that? That's the devil salute. That's my respect to you, because I appreciate you watching. Yeah, devil salute. Yes, I hope Infotron loves his new home on your bookcase. That sounds awesome. Take care, everybody. Keep reading comics. Take care of each other. Be kind. And we'll see you here next week. Bye.